Does everyone in Nevada gamble all day? Is Nevada mostly just all desert? And are there crazy secret alien bases here? We're going to talk about those things and a whole lot more. So grab your sunglasses, your sunscreen, and your lotion. We're going to unbox the state of Nevada. Oh, looks like somebody struck it rich. Well, it's only a $2,500 payout. But to some people, that's a lot of money. I'd be willing to bet by the end of the night that $2,500 is going right back into that machine. But that's okay. Some people enjoy putting money in and watching colorful screens light up and make noise. It's a harmless form of entertainment. Sorta. Of course, we are in Las Vegas, the center of all gambling and sin, and where people go to do things they wouldn't tell their family they did. And much of Las Vegas is centered around gambling. It's estimated there's 200,000 slot machines in Las Vegas alone. That's a lot of Wheel of Fortune and triple red hot sevens to take your mind off your otherwise boring life. And it's estimated tourists spend about $10 billion every year on gambling in Clark County, Nevada alone. And that's a lot of free watered-down vodka sodas. Nevada and Louisiana are the only two U.S. states where legalized casino-style gambling is allowed statewide. But of course, Nevada isn't all casinos. There's a lot more to this state than that. Nevada only has about 3 million people. However, it's the third fastest growing state right now, so a lot of people want to live here. In order for you to know what you're getting yourself into if you decide to move here, we should get out from behind this slot machine and see what else this state has to offer. Because I'm out of 20s, and the ATM fees are outrageous. This is Nevada. Now, how you look at this depends on your idea of entertainment. Clearly, there's a lot of indoor stuff to do in certain parts of the state, but there's a lot of fun stuff outside here too. And there's a lot of little hidden gems that people in Nevada don't even know about. We're going to begin up here in the northern part of the state. Now, much of this part of the state is just smallish towns and cities and a lot of mountains. Like, a lot of mountains. You may not know it, but Nevada has the most mountain ranges of any other state. And Nevada has 40 different mountain peaks that are 10,000 feet or higher. Look at this map of Nevada with the terrain layer turned on. Cool, huh? You can get up into them, but you need to walk or take a horse to get back there pretty deep. There's also a lot of desert areas in this part of the state too, of course. Some desert areas are all sand, and many desert areas have lots of totally pretty areas like this. Nevada's the driest state of all, and it doesn't rain much here. But up here in northern Nevada, it does snow, and it's actually pretty cold in the winter. But where are all the people? Up here, there's some decent-sized cities, and others that are desolate and empty. Almost all of northern Nevada's population lies in a line along I-80, here. Elko's the biggest city in this part of the state, but there's only 20,000 people here. Ranching and mining are a big deal in Elko. It's a small town, and there's not a lot going on, but that's okay, because a lot of the people here can spend their time counting all their money. This is the wealthiest city in the state, where the average household earns about $200,000 a year, and much of that's because of all the gold and silver mines around. You may not know it, but 80% of the gold mined in this country comes from Nevada, and Nevada mines the fourth most gold in the world. Nevada also ranks second in the country in silver production too, and a lot of that gold and silver comes from areas up here near Elko. But many of the small towns up here along I-80 are not wealthy, nor are they fun. There's a lot of weirdos out here, and there's a lot of passing through crowd, out-of-state folks looking to prospect for metal. They usually don't stay too long. There's a stereotype among Nevadans that these smallish communities way out in no man's land Nevada are conservative, redneck, sundowner towns. You'd find most of these teeny towns are just about all white and some Hispanic. But for the most part, people keep to themselves and won't mess with you unless you mess with them first. Overall, it's just a slower pace of life where the cost of living's fairly cheap in these parts. Places like Winnemucca, Carlin, and Lovelock are all just little towns with lots of space and cheap living. Pretty nice places. For a good job, outside of mining, the options are going to be very limited for most people up here. There are some bad areas to live in northern Nevada. Over here is Battle Mountain. Do not move to Battle Mountain. It's just a really slummy, run-down place. Pick anywhere to live except Battle Mountain. You'd also want to avoid any border towns like Jackpot or Wendover, where people come in from other states to gamble and do bad things. No good happens in a Nevada border town. There's also some small, charming towns in northern Nevada. Ely is a remote mountain town in White Pine County where they have all sorts of festivals. Teeny Eureka is another mountain town way out in the middle of nowhere. It's a preserved old mining boomtown, but you'd have to be a certain type of person to live in a small town in Nevada like these. The smallest city in the whole state is Preston, over here. There's 16 people here, including apparently Scott, or Scooter, as the locals probably call him. You have to be a pretty big deal, I guess, to get your house on Google Maps like that. Way up here in Humboldt County is where they hold Burning Man every year. It's a festival where people come and live for 9 days out in the middle of the desert, and they do drugs and create art and listen to music, and of course, burn the big man down at the end. It's a pretty big deal to those who attend, and some say it's life-changing, although that could be just from the drugs they consumed all week. This part of the state also has lots of wild horses and burros. You may not know it, but half the wild horses and burros in this whole nation are in this one state. But you can't ride them, because they're wild. For fun way up here, people camp in the desert, or they hike in the mountains, or they visit one of Nevada's many hot springs. Or when there's snow, you could snowmobile in some of the canyons. But you have to actually travel a bit south and west to find any real big cities. So we're going to head over to the northern Sierra part of the state to see what's going on over there. This is the Reno, Carson City, northern Sierra part of Nevada. There's about 700,000 people in this part of the state, which is about 20% of the state's total population. So clearly, there's a lot more going on here than up north. And just about everything of note is here in the Reno, Sparks, and Carson City metro areas. On the fringes of this metro area, you have some smallish towns like Fernley, aka Ferntucky. This place used to be rough around the edges, but all the new people pouring into the area for all the tech jobs are living way out this way and driving 30 minutes into Reno now. Sparks is pretty much one big giant housing development suburbia wasteland where there's only 3 roads in and out of town. Look at all those beautiful homes all lined up in a row. Each one is about $373,918 and going up by the day. People are flooding into the Reno area because of a new tech boom and because Northern California pretty much sucks now. So you have all these no-cal newcomers coming in and snagging up all the available real estate. Reno used to be more laid back and had a cowboy redneck culture centered around the casinos. Now it's more homeless people and hipsters looking for organic pizza and tattoos in Midtown. Sorta. If you were going to pick the nicer, wealthier, safer areas in this general part of the state, good places to be would be Minden or Gardnerville, which have a lot of ranching nearby and are kind of hardcore conservative, but totally nice. Verdi is a super nice area, 15 minutes from Reno along the California border. Southwest and Southeast Reno also have some nice areas. And if you can afford it, you can live in the super wealthy communities right on the banks of Lake Tahoe. But you likely can't afford that. I mean, rich retired rock stars have homes along these banks in places like Incline Village. In Reno proper, the east and northeast parts of town used to be all farms. Now it's filled with sketchy apartments. Beyond that, Sun Valley, which claims to have the largest trailer park community in the world. Some call it Scum Valley. There's knife fights and gunshots out here all the time. And tweakers. You wouldn't want to live there. Or maybe you would. Downtown Reno's chugging along. Of course, there's casinos on the main drag here. The Truckee River goes through downtown, and there's a cool artsy area along its banks. It's more laid back than Vegas is. There's fresh air and clean water and actual jobs that aren't tourism related. The sort of newish Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, or TRIC, is way out here on the south end of town. This is a huge deal. It's a 100,000-acre industrial park with more than 100 companies. Everything from warehouse logistics to shipping and technology facilities are all here. Companies like Tesla, Panasonic, Blockchain, Home Depot, and Walmart have a presence. You could say because of TRIC, much of northern Nevada is now controlled by big tech and not casinos. Reno also has the longest operating gay bar in the state, the 5-Star Saloon, and it has a gay rodeo. You may not know it, but Nevada is now the gayest state in the nation. 0.5% of all residents in Nevada are gay. Reno and Las Vegas will pretty much tolerate anything, but much of the rest of the state isn't too friendly of outside views, and that means liberal ones. Down here's Virginia City. It's an old touristy mining town where you can live like an old gold prospector for a day. There's plenty of places in Nevada like this, but Virginia City is just one of the most well-known, smallish old mining towns. You can also get drunk and ride on a camel here. Carson City is the state capital. It's sort of a quiet, sleepy place. There's only 50,000 people here. It's kind of on another planet, and it's been described as 80s Iowa. People here are behind the times a little bit. It's not too bad here. They fixed the place up a lot. The east side of Carson City is the worst side of Carson City. Apparently, drug use is higher here than in any other part of the state, but it's actually not too bad a place to live. There's a lot of skiing to keep you entertained in this part of the state, and for fun, it's more likely you'd go to San Francisco than to Vegas, because who needs to go to Vegas when you have Reno? And then there's nearby Pyramid Lake, which has no trees, a lot of water, and weird rocks. It's pretty spooky out this way, as it is in much of rural Nevada. Up here, it's going to be colder than it is downstate, and windy. Some days there's no wind, and other days it'll never stop blowing less than 60 miles an hour. That's why a lot of people in Nevada have to put lotion on, because of all the dry, gusty winds. You're also going to get a raw nose if you moved here. And now we're going to move over to central Nevada. Now, if you thought northern Nevada was boring, you ain't seen nothing yet. There really isn't anything of note in central Nevada outside of more desert. It's less mountains than northern Nevada. There's a bunch of ghost towns here. In fact, Nevada has 600 total ghost towns, meaning there's more ghost towns than towns with people in them. People, again, meaning your former mining towns. The eastern side of the state, way out this way, has a bunch of small towns with a big Mormon population. In many of Nevada's eastern desert towns, the Mormon population is close to 30%. This is also a good time to briefly mention that prostitution is legal in 8 of Nevada's counties, including a big chunk of central Nevada. Places like Nye County and Esmeralda County have lots of places to score some booty for a price. And looks like they're hiring too. Hey, you don't have to work there. You could be a typist or a housekeeper, but I don't know if you'd want to clean those sheets. Down here's Pahrump. You wouldn't want to live there. It's filled with felons and weirdos with guns. For fun, it's going to be 4x4ing, hang gliding, and horseback riding, and looking for aliens. Close to 80% of Nevada's land is government owned, and there's no more famous government owned land in this state than Area 51, here in Lincoln County in central Nevada. Of course, there's rumors that UFOs fly around this part of the state, and Groom Lake is supposed to be where the government does all sorts of alien spacecraft research. Maybe there's something to it, since this part of Nevada has more UFO sightings than almost anywhere else in the country. And Highway 375, which cuts through this neck of woods, is called the Extraterrestrial Highway due to all the sightings along its long, isolated stretches. Rachel's the closest place you can get to Area 51 without being tackled or shot at. It's a tourist trap where you can buy alien memorabilia. And now we're going to look at the last area of the state as we visit southern Nevada. Now, northern and southern Nevada might as well be 2 different states. Culturally and geographically, it's way different down here. It's mostly barren desert and hot. Like if you move here and you complain when it's 108, people are going to remind you, it's only June, just wait till August when it's 125. Southern Nevada has far less of a cowboy mining vibe. Oh, there's lots of weirdos down here, but most of the culture is centered around gambling down this way. The far south side of the state is taken up by border towns mostly. Places like Primm and Jean are all on the 15. This is where Southern Californians stop on their way to or from Vegas. There's nothing here but casinos mostly. Over here is the Arizona border, which is more gambling. Laughlin actually has people there. Lots of rednecks who live along the banks of the Colorado and chain smoke all day long. Boulder City is a bunch of small town, closed-minded people. But hey, it's Nevada. What do you expect? Also out this way is the Hoover Dam and Lake Mead. Hoover Dam is one of the biggest dams in the world, and its walls create Lake Mead, which is a terrible place to swim in. It's hot, and there aren't any trees anywhere. I mean, it'll do in a pinch when it's 150 degrees out. The boating's cool, though. And then we have the Las Vegas metro area, Sin City. 2/3 of Nevada's population lives in the Vegas metro area, and it's growing super fast. Many folks coming in are those from Southern California who are sick of the BS and want a cheaper life. There's no state income tax in Nevada, of course. And while Nevadans are quick to say they can't stand the influx of former Californians, they have to admit a big part of their state's economy relies on them. 7 million tourists come to Vegas every year, and many of them are from Southern California. Las Vegas is a place where you can get a fresh start. It's very business friendly as well. Las Vegas used to be much cheaper, but prices are going up fast, pal. It used to be that anyone who made about $100K could live in almost any neighborhood they wanted in the metro area. Not so much anymore. And by the way, you can make $60K easy as a valet at most Las Vegas casinos. Las Vegas is all spread out, and like any city, there's great areas and really rundown areas. North Las Vegas is pretty bad for crime. This is also 40% Hispanic and growing. You may not know it, but Nevada has the 5th most Hispanics of all U.S. states. Henderson's probably the most well-known Las Vegas suburb. This place is getting too big for its own good, though. Henderson is still sort of known as the posh place to live in the Las Vegas area. While there's still a ton of gated communities here, a lot of the new growth is high-density housing and apartments. There's a lot more crime now. There's also rundown parts of Henderson where there's white trash and hillbillies. They call those parts of town Hendertucky. You'll see lots of Trump flags, and the women look like this. A lot of the nice places where all the snobs live in the Vegas metro area are places like Lake Las Vegas, Anthem Seven Hills, and Green Valley Ranch. Green Valley Ranch is where you live if you can't afford Summerlin. And then there's Southern Highlands, which is the new up-and-coming area in town. Even the Raiders have homes there. These are the places you'd want to live if you're a rich, old retiree. But outside of North Las Vegas, the Vegas metro area is really not that bad for crime when you compare it to other large cities. Most of the troublemakers in Vegas are the tourists. The big concerns here are the terrible schools. Apparently, Nevada now has the second worst school system in the country. They were first for a while. And they're going to run out of water here one day. And the homeless people are becoming a bigger headache. There's people who live in the tunnels under the city. But Vegas is very quick to ship their homeless away on a bus to wherever they want to go. Las Vegas can also be a cold, mean, isolated community and a very transient place as well. Jobs-wise, it's slowly becoming a destination for technology and medicine, so that's cool. Tesla's even building the first ever underground tunnels to connect all of downtown. If you're religious, you might actually be pleasantly surprised to hear that it's not just Sin City here. Casinos outnumber churches here 3-1, but Las Vegas is actually 20th in the country for churches per capita. If you want to get off the strip for fun, you could climb at Red Rock Canyon or even ski at Mount Charleston. That's only a 45-minute drive from the strip. Can you believe that? But Vegas proper clearly has more entertainment than you can squeeze in a long weekend. You can get booze at any hour of the day, and you can watch shows and eat at buffets for like $10. There's an arts district here and even a Chinatown. But if you're thinking of moving here, you likely won't be gambling much down here. Once you become a local, you'll hardly ever go to the strip at all much, except for an occasional night out or to catch a Golden Knights game. You're going to quickly be over the crowds and the noise. Once you become a newly minted Las Vegasan, you're going to quickly discover all the little hidden places that are cheaper and far less annoying. But Las Vegas is the only place in the country where you can walk around and see gambling addicts, Mormons, doctors, Asians, business trippers, bachelors, bachelorettes, strippers, peddlers, tweakers, drunks, newlyweds, soccer moms, unassuming Midwesterners, and Elvis, all on one block. Nevada's sort of changing, and it sort of isn't changing. It depends on what part of the state you're in. Rough and tumble, middle of nowhere Nevada isn't ever going to change. Nobody wants to move out there now. Come on. But the bigger cities here are changing. As more real jobs move into the state and new people come here for the low cost of living and the warmth, the Nevada culture is starting to kind of change somewhat. Nevada is no longer just a place to lose your money, nor is it just a place to get married while heavily intoxicated. It's not just a desert wasteland, and it's not just a hole in the ground that you can take money out of. Not anymore. Okay, so that was a pretty good rundown of Nevada, wasn't it? Yes, it was. And we could have talked about a lot of other stuff too, like the weirdo guy who lived at Thunder Mountain, or the brothel owner who won a state assembly seat despite being dead, or Nevada Day. How did we not talk about Nevada Day? It's a state holiday. Come on. But we have to go. Celine is about to take the stage, and if there's one thing I love more than a cheap buffet, it's listening to Celine. But here's my own song. I'm much better than Celine. Come on now. Bring us all your money. 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 You'll lose all your money. You'll lose all your money. We'll take all your money. We'll take all your money. Bring us 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 all your money. You'll lose all your money. You'll lose all your money. We'll take all your money. We'll take all your money. Hey guys, if you learned something new about America or what it's like to live in America, great! You should think about subscribing and turning on your notifications. You can also click one of these videos or playlists for more. You can also now buy my songs on iTunes and other formats. Click the link in the description. Thanks for watching. And remember, while we all might have different views, we should all be nice to each other and try to make the U.S. a better place in a positive way.
This is Sage, Nick's manager. This has been a Corner House Entertainment production.
Give people an idea on what it's like in small town Nevada, what the people are like, what it's like to live in these little towns out in the middle of nowhere.
Well, so most of the small towns are in northern Nevada, so most of them are along I-80, the highway. So they're pretty boring. There's really not a lot to do unless you're into riding dirt bikes, motocross, stuff like that. If you're into hunting, you can hunt. Besides that, there's really not a lot out there. It's just vast desert. But you would think it would make the people kind of like angry and not very nice, but the people out there are actually very kind, very nice, very easy to get along with. Yeah.
Is it hardcore, white, conservative, don't tread on me, no outsiders, way out in the middle of no man's land, Nevada?
It's definitely a lot more conservative, a lot more red, but not as extreme in some places. It's very just live, let live kind of thing. Like people don't have very many political extremes in Nevada, I feel like, at least. It's very just kind of, people don't have strong opinions, I feel like. Everybody's kind of like down the middle as far as just how they feel about others and politics and all that.
How do they feel about others and politics in small town Nevada?
They're pretty welcoming. I mean, I don't think a big thing about Nevada is people have been coming from California for so long, so that's a big thing in like Idaho and Montana, is that they really don't like Californians and liberals coming to their state. But that's what Nevada was practically built upon, was just people coming from California. So people don't have like these really hardcore mentalities about outsiders, because everybody from Nevada is an outsider pretty much. And we don't have, I would say, in like Utah, people are a lot more, they're still friendly like Nevadans, I would say, but they have their Mormonism, I guess that's a good way of putting it, is they don't like people that don't think the way they do sometimes. If you're not Mormon, I would say sometimes they're very judgmental in some ways, and Nevadans aren't like that. It's anybody can come, everybody's all right. And that's always how I felt about Nevadans in the smaller towns.
Mm-hmm. So give people an idea on how Reno's changing. I know it used to have a much more cowboy, redneck kind of vibe back in the day, and that may have been before you were even born, but I hear Reno's changing a lot now. The culture's changing. People are coming in from the Bay Area now and snagging all the housing. I mean, how do you feel about that, and how's it changing out there in Reno?
It's changed a lot. It's changed a whole lot. So back when I was like 7, it was still pretty empty. Like a lot of people didn't move here as much. It was a pretty cheap place to live. It was still pretty run down as far as the downtown areas go. But over the past, I don't know, 8 years or so, a lot of more people started moving in. Downtown started getting nicer. Like you were saying, it was a lot more kind of like that cowboy feel. But Reno definitely nowadays feels like where the two worlds collide between Californian culture and that cowboy culture. That's the kind of vibe you get in Reno.
How do people feel about all the Californians moving in from the Bay Area up to Reno?
It was kind of like the same thing with the small towns. Everybody's from California in some sense. Like I could go ask 5 people, um, are did you move here from California? Do you have family in California? Or are your grandparents from California? 4 out of 5 people would say yes to at least one of those things. So people don't like it because it's making the housing going up. Um, People don't like that part about it, but at the same time, it's people don't care that much. I would say at least.
Yeah. So what's the culture in Nevada like? I mean, for things to do, it's going to have to be outdoor, 4x4ing and camping and hiking. I personally didn't think until I started, talking with folks from Nevada and kind of reading about it, how outdoorsy Nevada people are, or are they really not outdoorsy, but there's outdoors there if you choose to go outside? Because down in Southern California, there's outdoors everywhere, but a lot of people stay home. So
Yeah,
do people in Nevada, are they active? Are they outside like they are in Colorado, out in the outdoors, or is it just a few people that get out into it?
I would say it's almost everybody in Reno, for sure. Definitely almost everybody. Because I mean, we're right up against the mountains. We're up against the Sierra Nevada mountains, so everybody's going hiking. Everybody's going skiing. It's a big thing in where I live, in Spanish Springs specifically. A lot of people have side by sides, and you can just take them out of your garage and go right out into the desert and drive them around. So Nevadans are very outdoorsy, I'd say.
What are side by sides?
Oh, okay. Like 4x4s, I think is what you were.
Okay. All right. So what would you say are some stereotypes of Nevada that are not true?
Um, Everybody's just a drunk gambler, pretty much. That isn't very true at all. Um, all the people that I know, they never go downtown. They never go to the casinos. They don't gamble. People mainly live in Reno because they like getting the things that you would get from a big city without living in a big city. So that stereotype isn't completely true unless you're actually in the center of Reno, and then those stereotypes they become more true as far as the gamblers and the people with alcoholism and all that.
Mm-hmm. Are the homeless people becoming a problem in Reno?
Yes and no. Yes and no. Not as bad as like Portland or in California, but a lot of them come from those areas when they come to Reno. But it's definitely not as bad.
Yeah. How often do you go down to Vegas?
Never.
Not
Very often at all.
There's no reason for you to go down there, right?
Not really. I mean, it's cool. There's a lot more things to do, but it's such a long drive. It's an 8-hour drive just to get down there. So it's not really worth it at all.
Yeah. Do you have you heard anything about how Vegas is changing?
I have a little bit. I've heard it's growing a whole lot. I know that much. Besides that, I really don't know too much.
Mm-hmm. Are you going to stick around in Nevada? Are you going to get out of there? Are you going to stay in the Reno area the rest of your life? Like, what's your plan?
I don't know, because I get sick of the desert. I mean, the trees are pretty close. You drive an hour and you're in the forest, but you still have to live in the desert when you're living in Reno. So that gets kind of depressing sometimes, just nothing green around. So I'd like to move somewhere a little greener, maybe, but it's kind of hard when you're living out west because you could live somewhere like Oregon or Washington or California where there's trees, but your price of living goes up a lot. So it's kind of harder to find an area where you're going to be paying the same and you're going to get the things you want. So I might stick around. I don't know at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, you're young. You got plenty of time to figure that out. Where are the good and the bad parts of the Reno, Carson City metro area that you think people should know about?
So the actual casinos in Reno, that's pretty scummy. That's not a very good part at all. As soon as you get over to the other side of the river, the Truckee River, it gets pretty nice. That's where like all the shops are, all the nice little trendy restaurants. That part of town's pretty nice. It's called Midtown. besides that, all the surrounding areas of Reno are pretty nice. They're really not that bad. It's just downtown where it's not a very nice place to live or go, frankly.
Where's the best Reno suburb that people should consider, that where it's the safest and best to raise a family?
I would say Spanish Springs, but I'm a little biased. I've grown up here my entire life.
What is it called?
Spanish Springs.
Spanish Springs. Okay.
30 minutes
Spanish
north of
Springs.
Reno.
30 minutes north. Now, what about Sun Valley? I hear that's a dump.
That is absolutely a dump. Yeah, that is an awful place to live. Do not go there.
What makes it so bad up in Sun Valley?
Oh man, it's just one big trailer park. I think it might be the biggest trailer park in the United States. I've heard that before. I don't know if that's true, but it's literally just one ginormous trailer park. It's huge.
What would I see? What kind of people live up there?
It's a mix of just drug addicts and a lot of immigrants from Mexico. So that part's not bad. I mean, they're all nice. I used to do like HVAC jobs, and you'd have these really rundown trailers, but then you go inside and it'd be this immigrant family, and they'd have it really nice. It'd be a nice house, but then you go to like these white trash trailers, and then it'd be pretty bad, pretty rundown. But I mean, the people are still nice. I mean, I've gone out there before and gone to a few restaurants, and the college is pretty close by. The community college is pretty close to Sun Valley, so it feels dangerous, but the people are still all right.
Yeah. How often do people go to Tahoe?
Oh, all the time. So in the wintertime, that's when the ski resorts are open, and then that's kind of close to Tahoe. So people are up in that area all winter long, and then all summer long, people go all summer. Yeah, definitely. It's really close. For me, it's an hour drive, but people in Reno, it's just 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and you're there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think people have a misperception on what they think Nevada is. I mean, everybody knows it as a place to go gambling and where there's prostitution and sand,
Yeah.
and there is a lot of that. But it's kind of one of those states that just kind of just flies under the radar, that it's cheap to live in still. And there's not really a culture that's changing much. There's not really an identifiable thing that you could say is going wrong with that state that I've heard. I mean, I know the schools are bad, but it's just kind of a pretty decent place to live if you can stand the heat and the brown, right?
Yeah, pretty much. It's really not that bad. People don't have strong opinions here politically or just with anything, really. Everybody's just very meek, very bland, just pleasant people. It's really not a bad place to live at all.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was insightful. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.